Welcome to Uncommie Goods. The pandemic of 2020 exposed America's reliance on Chinese-made goods. Not only were we short on critical life-saving equipment, much of it from China ended up being defective. We were caught with our face masks down. They played us. Why is America handing off production of critical goods to China, and what can we do about it? Here on Uncommie Goods, we expose the nefarious misdeeds of the Chinese government: prison labor, suppression of human rights, theft of intellectual property, imperialist actions towards other nations. The list goes on. Let's hit them where it hurts. Stop buying goods made in China. And it's not all doom and gloom over here. This show celebrates the makers of Uncommie Goods, the stuff made right here in America, maybe even in your own backyard. Meet the people behind small American businesses, learn the secrets of their success, and how buying American goods supports innovation, local communities, jobs, and economic opportunity. And I'll even crack a few jokes while we're at it. Let's make it in America. I'm your host, Lars. This is Uncommie Goods. Hey, welcome to Uncommie Goods, episode 32. It's the Uncommie Manifesto continued, climbing the Uncommie Ladder. Now, before we get started, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, like, give a comment. If you're listening to via podcast, especially on Apple, please subscribe, give it a 5-star rating, and write a review on why you like Uncommie Goods, and please give it a 5-star review. This is very important to help spread the message. Apple sees that it's an algorithm, etc. But whatever you do, whatever podcast platform you use, please subscribe so you can get the latest episodes, and you can check out this episode on uncommieGoods.com/episode 32. So let's jump into climbing the Uncommie Ladder. I was flying to Maui last week, and it just kind of occurred to me, how can you uncommie your life? What are the stages, right? You can maybe do baby steps. And so I kind of put this together. I wrote it on my Commie iPhone on the Notes app, and I just scratched out some notes, and here's really what I thought. So rung ladder number 1 on the Uncommie Manifesto ladder. This is very simple and straightforward, really what I'm all about. Start buying American goods wherever you shop. And of course, if you're 99.9% of Americans, you buy all your stuff on Amazon. So therefore, you're not really sure what you're getting, where it's from, and how to sort it out. A lot of times I'm looking for something and I got to go into the, ask. You can post questions on Amazon. If, you can search on them, or you can post on them. Hey, is this made in China? And then people will be like, yeah, it is, on the back label. But they didn't say that on the product description. So there's this great new Chrome extension called Cultivate. If you just go to wecultivate.us, you can add it to your Chrome browser. Granted, I think the Chrome browser is probably totally common because it's made by Google, but what are you going to do? It's a Cultivate app. So every time you go to Amazon, you search on a product. And so, for example, I was looking for webcams. I'm using one right now. And it'll say, you pull it up, and in a few seconds, right under the product description, it'll say, product made in China. Here are 80 American alternatives that are similar. So using the Chrome extension, shopping on Amazon, granted you're supporting the evil Amazon. They don't really care where anything's from, but it's a way to use Uncommie practice within a commie company like Amazon. What's great also about using Amazon, Amazon sells everything. So if you're looking for something and you can't have any trouble finding it online, you can search for it on Amazon. That's how I found liquid chalk, for weight training to, keep your grip. And I found spider chalk that's made in America. And instead of buying it through Amazon, I just went directly to their website. Helps them with the margins. Granted, a lot of companies just use Amazon for fulfillment. So you're not really beating the beast, but then again, you're supporting an American company that you found on Amazon. So that's the first step, or rung on the Uncommie ladder that you're trying to climb, is just all your purchases, just try to make them American. And another little facet to, swapping out to buying American goods is like, look at your regular monthly purchases. Like, what do you buy every time you go, you go to Target and you always buy like, shampoo, or you're going to buy like a hair dryer or something like that, or towels. Look at whatever you're buying and make sure it's made in America. And then, make it like automatic. We're always going to get XYZ brand of, cosmetics, shampoo, conditioner, etc. And then over time, those regular monthly purchases, instead of buying something made by Procter and Gamble, a big, huge entity, look for local artisans or just small craftsmen, craft manufacturers of, like, I started buying shampoo and conditioner from a small company that's based out of the East Coast, because I just want to support a small family business. So that's like, rung 1.5 of the Uncommie Ladder is, not only buying American, but trying to seek out those small manufacturers or small family-run businesses that make like some of those everyday goods like shampoos, conditioners, etc. Also, second on the Uncommie Ladder is food. Think about where you're getting your food. It's all huge global corporations that are selling, huge, highly processed foods that are not good for you. So start looking at localizing your food sources. For example, beef in America, like over 90% of it comes from 4 or 5 big manufacturers like Cargill, Hormel. I forget the other ones, but they're really huge and they're basically run like huge factories. And the problem with that is there's horrible labor conditions. And 2, I'm not a vegan or anything like that, but the vegans do have a point about the terrible treatment of our livestock in America. And that's what happens when it's these big agribusinesses that put the pigs or the cows in big confined animal feeding operations, CAFOs, to plump them up for production, for slaughter. And the whole process is terrible because they're not living in their natural environment. So how do you opt out of the big agribusiness, big meat as they call it? Well, you can find a local rancher for your meat supply. There's a very good chance there's a ranch within an hour or 2 of your home. And important thing to ascertain is make sure it's 100% grass-fed and grass-finished. Cows are designed to eat grass. They're not designed to eat corn. So when you go to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse and they're like, this beef is corn-fed and delicious, you're just like, bro, you're killing me. Especially with, the nutritional profile of corn-fed beef or grain-fed beef is not ideal. It's grass-fed, it's leaner, it's the types of fat in the grass-fed beef that makes it a lot healthier for you. It's how we evolved for millions of years. We ate grass-fed ruminants. So that's where vegans are wrong, is, we didn't eat carrots and avocados in order to conquer the world. So again, there's probably a ranch within an hour or 2 of your home, and you make sure that it's 100% grass-fed and grass-finished. This is why you want to get local, because these big agribusiness, the big 4 meat companies, they take all these cows from everywhere, they put it in their feedlot, right? They feed them corn because they want to fatten up real quickly, right? They obviously want a return on their investment. That corn and grain that the cow's eating upsets their stomach and their digestive system, creates bacteria, E. coli. E. coli is only in grain-fed cows. So what happens, this big operation, they get the cows sick, they maybe don't disinfect them during the slaughtering process, there's an E. coli outbreak, all these cows from all over the country in one place, and then it's distributed all over the country, and you have an E. coli outbreak and a big recall, you'll hear about it in the news. That only happens with big agribusiness. It does not happen with small ranching operations. So again, find a local rancher. Not only does it give you better beef, it's better for the environment. The cattle is raised, with sun, rain, grass equals beef, right? And if you're worried about global warming, which I'm not, traditional grass-fed cattle ranching stores CO2 or captures it. There's a ton of research out there. Just shoot me an email and I'll point you in the right direction. The same thing outside of cattle ranching and grass fed is you want to look for chicken, egg, and pork that is pasture raised, not pasteurized, pasture raised. Chickens live as they're intended. They're scratching, eating bugs, warming around, eating worms. They're even eating rodents. I've seen a video of a chicken. There's a cat playing with a mouse, and just kind of batting it around, and the chicken sees it, just runs over there and eats it. And it just shows you that they're meant to eat a they're meant to eat a wide variety of stuff, and that's how you get really healthy eggs too. You ever compare a regular big supermarket egg, the yolk, and then you look at a pasture raised yolk, you can see the pasture raised one is darker, richer, dark yellow, almost even red, like a reddish hint to it. And the flavor is amazing. And not only that, it's getting it from a happy chicken. So again, a really good way to track down these local ranchers. I keep telling got to find the local rancher. Where do you find them? Well, very good guess is a farmer's market. Go look for the booth. They're probably selling a lot of product to those booths, but at the same time, it's a marketing arm for a bigger market. So you can talk to them and learn about how is the cattle raised or the eggs, etc. And I was at a local farmers market here, and I found it had avocado raised pork. Now it was amazing. They did this pork shoulder. And then also I discovered a great local chicken farm, and I got the best eggs from them too every 2 weeks. And it's the same with the meat providers. Again, how do you get to buying beef from a ranch? All right, so this is what I did. We went to a website called eatwild.com. And what's great about this website is the website looks very dated, right? But then it's a very grassroots thing. So go to eatwild.com and search by your state. And you can search for community-supported agriculture. It's called a CSA. And you can find a ranch or maybe an egg provider or an egg farm, and start up. It's called community-supported agriculture. You can just start up an account with them and get a delivery every month. And really, you become like a customer, like a regular customer, right? It's not like you go to the store and you hope you're going to get it. Once you develop a relationship with a ranch, a chicken farm, etc., you're a customer and you have a regular monthly order, and you're not subject to go to the store. Like I went to the store the other day to get some pasture raised eggs, and they were completely out. And I just refused to buy like the big factory farm eggs because one, it's just terrible, and they're not as good, and I just refuse to support that kind of business. So that's the benefit of buying from a local ranch. So this is what happened was my buddy and I, we found a farm based up in Cotati, California. It's a few hours north of where I was, so we're going to make a trip of it. It's a beautiful drive. You go past San Francisco, and you see the farmland, and we drove up there, and we went to the ranch, met this old fella that ran the farm. We handed him a check. We took all the beef back to my place because I had invested in a chest freezer, and we stored it all there. And it was just a great experience because you're buying we bought a quarter cow, which was a lot, right? So you can do two ways, right? They can usually ship it to you, or you can go pick it up, really depending on what you want to do. And so what's great about this is, for example, if you get like a regular monthly subscription, they're going to give you like a variety of cuts. So, it's not going to be the exact same thing, right? It's a bit of a surprise, right? So for example, if you're getting, from a local cattle ranch, you're getting like, a variety of steaks, a few roasts, and then like ground meat. And it changes, right? 1 month it's sirloin steaks and chuck roast. The next month it's ribeyes and, chuck shoulder roast, right, that you can braise, right? And, there's always like ground beef, right? So you get to embrace the variety and try new cuts. Only a commie would want the exact same thing every time with no changes or variations, right? Let's have a little fun, right? At the same time, with some of these CSAs, like the egg one, they didn't deliver it directly to my house, but I went to a neighbor's house. They were sort of like the central pickup location, right? So It's really cool. You get this like really cool community feel of it, right? Something you would never get from a factory farm, mass-produced chickens just having a terrible life. And what's great is what's actually kind of an anomaly is, like, for example, the chicken farm, they could not be certified organic. And, when it comes to certifications, it's a mixed bag, right? Because the organic label, they permit a lot of things. They do permit pesticides for organic. So you can meet these people and they tell you how they raise the chickens or the beef, and you can come check them out. They'll let you do it, right? And so it's a little bit less about the certification, because that just involves a lot of money and greasing hands, I guess, like bribing and paying a lot of money. Whereas I'd rather just meet them and learn about the process and how they do things and support a small business, right? So yeah, second part of the Uncommie, Manifesto ladder is, a step towards more self-reliance, localization, and, eliminating centralization, right? All that centralization I mentioned earlier with like the producing the, the slaughterhouses and the sick cows, shopping local ranchers and farms eliminates that. You can also do this with your produce, right? You can join a community supported agriculture, a CSA, to get regular shipments, every 2 weeks, every month of, local greens, produce, carrots, potatoes, etc. And again, you're supporting a local farm, and the quality is usually really great. So highly suggest that. So Uncommie rung of the ladder, number 3 is your health, right? And despite what the media is telling you, COVID is not America's biggest health problem. It's obesity, right? And I hate to say that, but like 90-80% of COVID deaths, COVID was unfortunately the thing that pushed people off the edge. Most people were obese and they had multiple comorbidities. There was very few people. It did happen. People always like to point out anomaly, but it very rarely was there someone that was healthy, metabolically fit, that exercised regularly with no other medical conditions that died from COVID. So obesity is a very big epidemic here in America, and being overweight. And I understand there's a lot of emotional, issues around this issue, around obesity, and people aren't being allowed to be told they're fat, or people are celebrating fat acceptance, and I'm not really going to wade into that territory other than saying it's not healthy. People say healthy at any size. It's not true. There's zero evidence of that. So being overweight leads to a multitude of health problems, right? Hypertension, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, depression, and so on. And eventually the weight problems lead to a dependence on medications. And then this is where it becomes commie, is you're a cog in the pharmaceutical industrial complex, right? Most of healthcare in America, they don't want to cure you. They want to treat you. And by treating you, that means giving you medicine, prescription, having you come back, basically being a subscriber, right, to medicine versus, hey, you're healed, you're better, move along, break your leg, come back, right? So, most Americans eat a very sugary diet. And what happens in this case is it causes their blood glucose levels to rise. Glucose, that's a fancy word for sugar. And when you have a high glucose diet, your body, becomes dependent on high levels of glucose to get energy, right? That's like your primary source of energy. And then you become dependent on regular meals, right? So you lose a little dependency. You need those frequent meals. You ever see those people that they get irritable and angry if they haven't had anything to eat? That is an emotional reaction to lack of glucose in their bloodstream. And it's very common to be totally dependent on regular meals, right? You can just keep losing your mind. So if your diet is not based on refined carbs and it's like higher in protein, I'm wading into dangerous territory here. I'm giving nutritional advice, right? Again, if your diet is not based on refined carbs. It's higher in proteins. Your blood glucose levels stabilize, right? And you're actually able to skip a meal without going nuts. And I've been on both sides of the issue. I was one of those, ate a lot of pasta and pizzas, and I would just start losing my mind every time I got hungry. And it was almost like a little personality trait. I didn't like that. And then I've also rapidly altered my diet to remove a lot of that processed sugar or refined carbohydrates. So my blood glucose levels actually are stabilized. It's actually oddly ironic to being healthy enough to skip a meal. It's kind of a paradox because true commies skip a lot of meals, but not by choice, right? So obesity, how do you treat it, right? Of course, talk to your doctor before you undergo any dietary changes. Of course, doctors are, for the most part, pill pushers, and they're unable to see in terms of diet. They just say, they'll cut fat, right? Whereas fat is very filling, and actually makes it easier to eat less. So here are some tips that have worked for me. I have actually lost 35 pounds of weight a few years ago and have kept it off because I've altered my diet and exercise regimen and made it a part of my life rather than like some sort of short-term fix. Okay, here we go. So intermittent fasting is fairly popular and it's a great way to lose weight. And there are some, fancy programs and books you could buy, but intermittent fasting, here's my course. I'll give it to you for free. Skip breakfast, right? Go to 2 meals a day. So what happens is you open up your eating window, or excuse me, you shorten your eating window and increase your fasting window. And like after about 12 hours of not eating, you start burning your glucose levels and your body actually starts repairing itself over time. I've actually gone 3 days without eating. I'm kind of going a little off topic here, but not eating for a little bit of time is actually a positive health activity. If you fast for more than 24 hours, your body starts, it's called autophagy. It starts rebuilding the cells and breaking down apart damaged cells in your body and repairing. It goes into this like repair and replace stage rather than just trying to process what you've digested and eating. So that intermittent fasting is a great way to lose weight. And think about when you're sick and you're dependent on medication. Your illness feeds into big pharma, right? It's like that scene in The Matrix when like Neo, he like wakes up in the pod. He has all these nodes plugged into him like all over his body because it's sucking out the electricity that humans apparently naturally generate, and that electricity powered the Matrix. Well, you're exactly the same if you're on medicines. Except the Pharmaceutical Industrial Complex is sucking money out of you to power their matrix, right? With their matrix is powered by money. So if you lose that weight and change your lifestyle, you can make long-term health part of your life. As I mentioned earlier, I used to weigh 220 and I had high blood pressure. I'm 6 feet tall, so 220 is kind of up there. And I couldn't believe it. They put me on meds, right? And I was one of those guys that like never, took any sort of medicines, very healthy my whole life, right? So eventually I lost about 35, 40 pounds. I cleaned up my diet and that naturally fixed my blood pressure and no meds, right? I go, every time I go to the doctor now, they say, wow, your blood pressure, wow, that's great. It's like an athlete. So that's very good. So in terms of like losing weight, I'm not going to get super specific, but absolutely start cutting out the highly refined carbohydrates from your diet and look into a more of a paleo primal diet / lifestyle. I'm not going to suggest any short-term fixes. And you just really paleo primal diet and, cut out the junk food. And again, as I mentioned earlier, talk to your doctor, but there's a good chance your doctor is just another cog in the pharmaceutical industrial complex. Now, for inspiration and information on how to, adopt a paleo primal lifestyle, well, I'll give you the gist of it. It's really eating food that is based on, is it something we ate, ancestrally? Is it something we ate like 5, 10, 15,000 years ago? eat it, right? If it's something that is new, if it has a brand name on it, like, Flaming Hot Cheetos, that's definitely not ancestral. So start looking at food that is just like, if like a caveman would recognize it, like, oh, steak, right? Maybe they don't know it's called a tri-tip, but they recognize it as meat, or a vegetable. They would recognize that. So that is the gist of like a paleo primal diet. You don't have to be like totally weird about it. Like, I'll still eat pizza here and there again, but you can tell the difference once you've gone towards a more ancestral, real to your body's needs diet. You eat pizza, I feel actually pretty lousy. I enjoy it at the moment. But so where can you find more information about adopting a more paleo primal diet and evidence of people that have totally removed need for medications? Go to marksdailyapple.com. You can see plenty of success stories. People have like lost the weight and stopped their dependence on medications, and they got before and after pictures. Just go to marksdailyapple.com, and then there's on the menu, click results, right? And it can be done. I've done it. It was a very simple process. I just cut out the junk. And don't be discouraged if your doctor or friends or peers aren't helpful. Just do it on your own. Again, most doctors are trained to push pills for everything, right? When I had high blood pressure, they're just like, "We got to get you on the medication." I go, wait, what else can I do? They even got, this is the crazy part. They got me to buy some sort of fake salt that it was like potassium chloride instead of sodium chloride, because and here's the thing, like, people are the total misnomer that sodium's bad for you. It's the processed foods and refined carbohydrates. That, by the way, that potassium chloride tasted awful, and I use plenty of salt in my diet, and I am fine. But then again, I'm just an anecdote. So experiment on yourself. Remove those carbohydrates, the pasta, the pizza, the tons of rice, and get back to the high protein, high nutrient dense foods. I know I'm kind of going off like evangelizing the paleo primal diet, but it really is rooted in science, unlike a lot of things in the media today. And why it's so, there is a lot of like a mainstream sort of denigration of a paleo primal diet, because other than selling books, there's really no money to be made from it, right? It doesn't support that pharmaceutical industrial complex, right? So that's why they make it out for you to be like a weirdo if you adopt this. So seriously, if you are interested in adopting a more paleo primal diet, reach out to me. Only a commie would want you to eat processed garbage and be unhealthy and then dependent on medication. What I really want to emphasize here on the Uncommie Manifesto, climbing the Uncommie Ladder, is removing various dependencies on your life, right? Because people living in commie countries, they were dependent on the state to bring them bread. They were dependent on the state to give them jobs. No, we don't want the state to give us anything other than national defense. I'm going off on a tangent here, but I love it. And so you want to be less dependent on needing medications, right? Especially if it's something you can eliminate through a lifestyle change. There's so many more things you could do also, like meditation, going for walks, getting some vitamin D, getting some sunlight. Look towards a natural solution, not something the doctor is going to push on you. Okay, ladder number 4, I think. I've already gone up to 3. Okay, so, obesity, America's got a weight problem, but it's not the only thing weighing Americans down. And I touched on this in a previous episode. It's oversized debt, especially consumer debt. I'm not really talking about mortgage debt, because you're actually getting something back when you have a mortgage. Usually, when you buy a house, it goes up in value. I'm talking about consumer debt. Americans have an addiction to using their credit cards, and they buy stuff on loan to, usually on your credit card, and they don't pay it off that month, right? So you become dependent to paying off that monthly bill, right? And credit cards are great, especially if it's an emergency. And like, I had to fly out of New York gosh, about 10 years ago. I think it was Hurricane Irene. I had to get the F out of Dodge because a hurricane was coming the next day. I caught the last flight out. Guess what? I had to whip out my plastic and drop $1,000 to get out, 3 days early. So obviously, it's how you use the credit card, not the credit card itself. But people take those credit cards, and if you look at the first law of economics, people have unlimited wants and desires, and there's only limited resources. So unless you have $10 billion, there's a good chance you can't afford everything you want to buy. So credit cards are very convenient, but sometimes that convenience is a little bit commie. Think about these convenient snack foods that are killing your health. That's very commie. Credit cards give you convenient ways to spend money, and if you're stuck in a cycle of just making the payments, you're going to bury yourself in a hole. So once you build up some debt, it really grows like a monster. Say, for example, you have like $5,000 in credit card debt, and you want to pay off the minimum. You pay about $181 per month, assuming the annual percentage rate is 18%. So that's fine. Okay, cool. We'll pay off $5,000 in 36 months. But you incur $1,519 in interest charges. So that's a magical way of taking $5,000 and turning it into $6,000 in the wrong direction. So what's important to do is to just look at all your debt and then pay it off. Like, for example, so not only have I lost 35, 40 pounds of weight, I lost $33,000 in credit card debt. I was in a tough period in my life, unemployed. I was trying to start a new business, and I probably made some bad financial, but so I was $33,000 in debt. And once I got a new career situated, I paid that off in 13 months. I did a very basic thing. I just created like a debt snowball, took my smallest debt, paid that off first, and then applied everything. Let me start that over. I listed all my debts out, and I paid the minimum on all of them except for the smallest one, and I paid everything I could to the smallest debt until it was paid off. And then I took all that extra money and paid off the second smallest debt. And 13 months, I really had it down. And the best part is, I really changed my lifestyle. I wasn't really a guy that ran up credit card bills before. I always paid them off until I, was in this, financial rut and I got laid off. But I've really learned to live off less money and then invest the rest. And that I've been able, I'm not going to share the numbers, but I was impressed about how much I was able to invest, over the following 3 years. It pretty much equaled what I paid off in 1 year. So you can run the numbers there. And, but yeah, having control over your finances and your health and where you buy your things, it's a very self-actualization type activity, I think. That's how I feel. Just having mastery. You're not controlled by all these payments. You're not controlled by needing all these medicines. And you're not controlled by trying to find the cheapest thing to buy, not caring where it's made from. So these are like the rungs on the Uncommie ladder. And I talked a little bit more about the debt in episode 18, coincidentally called Uncommie Manifesto Part 1. So I think over time, I'll continue to add and refine, Uncommie Manifesto. I like the idea of a ladder that you climb. You just take the baby steps, and then over time, you become more and more uncommie. I've got some other ideas I want to touch on. So let's do a quick recap of the Uncommie Manifesto ladder to date. 1, buy American. Use the Cultivate app if you're shopping on Amazon. Rung number 1.5. Start taking your regular monthly purchases and find an American substitute, American made. And then, after that, start looking for an artisan or a small little manufacturer, making local, soaps, candles. I don't know what people buy, tablecloths, etc. Just look for small artisan manufacturers that really care about where it's made. And they'll be able to tell you, like, for example, I just bought some shampoo from Tor Salon Products. They even make the packages, and the bottles are American made along with all the products. So go ahead and check out episode 31 for a little bit more on 30 for Tor Salon Products. So one, buy American, use the Cultivate app, replace your regular monthly purchases with American made goods. Two, buy local, naturally raised food. Find that rancher that raises grass-fed cattle and beef, pasture-raised chickens, pasture-raised porks, not pasteurized. Um, and then subscribe to CSA where you get like a produce every month or every couple of weeks from a local farm. Right? These are like you could even probably call up and talk to. Oh, hi, this is Janet at Sunflower Farms. Things like that, right? You can get to know them, right? And also, I forgot to touch on this earlier. You're becoming less subject to any fluctuations in the supply chain crises. So when I was ordering, I know I'm getting meat every month from a rancher, and when COVID first hit and there was riots everywhere, meat was sold out, and this rancher stopped taking on new customers. But since I was an existing customer, I was uninterrupted, right? So think if I had gone to the store and the meat supplies were down, I still had my guy sending me beef every month. So get into a local source and become part of that consistent, process where you're getting deliveries from them, and you're less subject to any sort of disruptions in the supply chain. So buy American, buy local food and produce, skip that huge agribusiness, three, get your health in order, look towards a more natural diet. And granted, I'm very biased towards a paleo primal diet, but it does work. And there's so many success stories, and it's also sustainable. And then number 4, eliminate all consumer debt and get out of paying the minimum payments on all your purchases, right? It's a trap, and then you're stuck, and ultimately you're less free. And less free is very commie. More free is very uncommie. So, yeah, I know I didn't highlight any American-made products today, but I really thought that it's about like the lifestyle you choose to live that really improves your uncomminess. And personally, I believe you're living an uncommie life, more self-reliant. Your health is, in your own hands. You're not dependent on, a doctor upping your prescription or finding a new medicine for you, right? Life changes, right? What if you've been paying off all this debt, and you're making all these payments, and you have no extra money at the end of the month? You don't live like that. So you're dependent on, your job, or not having any sort of emergency fund, and eventually you're going to end up being dependent on the state because you weren't able to make any investments. So all these really feed into personal freedoms, be it freedom for your own health, freedom to be as wealthy as you can be, freedom to support businesses that you choose. So again, that's the Uncommie Manifesto Part 2, Climbing the Uncommie Ladder. Hope you enjoyed. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe, like. Hitting that like button on YouTube really ups the algorithm and might make me famous. 2, I don't necessarily want to be famous. I just want to spread the Uncommie word. 2, if you're listening to a podcast, especially on Apple Podcast app, give it a 5-star review. Give it a 5-star rating, and then write up a review on why you like this podcast. That really helps spread the word. I'm trying to spread the message of importance of buying American-made goods, and then living this uncommie life that is ultimately healthier for you, makes you stronger, happier, healthier, less dependent on the government to give you things. For example, Social Security, I hope to never need it. Probably might not even exist. So the less you are plugged into the matrix, be it the pharmaceutical, the government, the big agribusiness matrix, all they really care about is, one, sucking the money out of your wallet and feeding their matrix, whereas you can support your own local, local matrix of great businesses that do things that you believe in. So again, thank you. Please hit like, subscribe, give a rating, review on all your favorite podcast platforms. And if you want to reach out, just you can reach me at hello@uncommigoods.com. Send me a note if you have any ideas, anything you want to share. Did you learn something? Are you going to try and adopt the Primal Paleo diet for your health? So you can get out of the pharmaceutical and industrial complex. I mean, I care about your health. I care about Americans' health. The health epidemic, the obesity epidemic costs us billions. And it's one of those things that we could easily fix on our own without a doctor's intervention. And I'd love to help you. So anyway, thanks again for watching Uncommie Goods, episode 32, Climbing the Uncommie Ladder. Thank you.